If Capcom wants to make a lot of money, they should probably remake all of these games.
April Fools, you little sausage!
People are like, hey, they should remake RE5, they should remake Code Veronica, remake Resident Evil 1 again. But the video you're watching right now isn't about all those remakes. It's about the sequel to Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 9. What should they do? Where should they go from where 8 left off? Should it be an action game? Should it try something new? Or once again go back to their old horror game roots? Here's what I want from Resident Evil 9. And if you like Resident Evil content, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and share the video. So we all know that Resident Evil has some badass motherfuckers as the protagonists. Jill, Chris, Leon, Rebecca, Claire, and many more. And we just finished the Ethan Winters duology. So should we bring back a fan favorite like Jill or Leon? Ethan Winters' daughter? An old forgotten hero? Or a new character? Okay, honestly it would make a whole lot of sense for it to be Ethan Winters' daughter. The Ethan Winters saga just ended, and having his daughter take over as the new protagonist seems pretty easy, right? And they can expand more on her in this story. Or if you want a returning character, we can have someone badass like Jill or Leon, or we could have another badass who was heavily involved with 7 and especially 8 being Chris. And for less popular or forgotten heroes, I guess we could bring back Carlos, or what the hell was his name, Billy? Though it's possible he might be canonically dead. Maybe Barry or Barry's daughter? If I'm being completely honest though, the character I'd want to see most, if it's one of the less popular characters, would probably be Rebecca Chambers. She was the only surviving member of Bravo Team and a sidekick to Chris in the first game. And Rebecca even got her own game where she works with an escaped inmate named Billy. And if you know basic math, then Resident Evil 0 will clue you in that this is a prequel to the first game. And I don't know, maybe I'm Wesker in disguise, but I just think she's really cool. And it'd be really cool to see an extremely experienced version of Rebecca since she was a rookie at the very beginning of the series. And even if she isn't the protagonist, it would still be cool to have her along for the ride. Maybe a new rookie is the main character, and it'd be cool to see her lead them. And of course, if you don't want her, you could always bring back Chris because he was in the last 2 games, or Leon because, well, it's motherfucking Leon, bitch! It's Leon Kennedy, motherfucker, doing roundhouse kicks and shit. He's fucking awesome! And Resident Evil fans like him for 2 reasons. 1, he's awesome. 2, he's sexy. And if Capcom puts Leon Kennedy as the protagonist, more people will buy this game. This guy sells copies. But Jill's my favorite Resident Evil character. You may know her from such good games as a good game, a good game, a good remake, a good game, a bad remake, a good remake if we could have nice things, and it would just be cool to see her again. Please, Capcom, just a little more. Mommy Jill? Anyways, if we don't have any of these characters returning, then we could have some new characters. Whether it's a cop, a soldier, maybe just some random civilian like Ethan again. And while I definitely want Ethan Winters' daughter to have a role in the story, I wouldn't mind if she was just a side character. Or you have a main character and have her as the second playable character. Kinda like how in RE1 you would go from Chris to Rebecca, or how in RE3 you would go from Jill to Carlos. Also, they don't have to do this, but I do think it'd be cool if they introduced the 2 different campaigns again, like with Leon and Claire or Jill and Chris. And if they want, they can do A and B scenarios again, as long as they're not half-assed. Fuck you, Resident Evil 2 Remake. You're great in every way except this one thing. So honestly, I feel like the best pick for a protagonist would either be Jill, Chris, Leon, Rebecca, maybe Ethan Winters' daughter, but preferably just as a side character you play as in the story occasionally, or just someone who's involved with the story. Or hell, make a new character. Make a new cool character. Okay, so we have an idea of who the protagonist should be, but should this game be an action game, a horror game, or something new? If I'm being honest, I don't know what new thing they could possibly do, but I'd be down for either style. Preferably not like RE8 though. Listen, RE8's a good game and has great gameplay, but I felt mixing horror aspects of 7 with more of the shooter action style of 4 felt kind of weird. It was still good, but it felt like a puzzle, but the puzzle pieces didn't line up, so you had to take scissors and cut all the puzzle pieces, and now it fits, kind of. Still a good game, though. But for me, I personally prefer the scarier Resident Evil games, or the ones that are more horror-focused than action-focused. Or maybe we could have mostly horror gameplay with some action segments. Or if we are swapping between two characters, have a horror-centered character, and a character who does all the cool badass fighting. I just want to keep the number of different playthroughs to a minimum, unless each of the stories are really long and handled well. Or if they pull a Resident Evil 2 classic and have 4 campaigns through the usage of the A and B scenarios, which on technicality is 4 playthroughs. So maybe at most 2 or 3 different character stories, and maybe if you want to have other characters included, have them for little segments. So maybe for the action segment you would play as either Rebecca or Leon, and then there would be a small segment where you switch over to Jill, a new character, or Rose. And maybe for the second character you can pick, you can play as either a civilian or just another character, but have this playthrough be more horror focused. So instead of having a bunch of guns, a bunch of ammo, and a bunch of enemies to fight, you would have a few enemies, and it would be a lot more claustrophobic, and you have to scrounge for more ammo, and it would be very limited. And I feel like having Rose here would make more sense, either as the main character, or maybe a character you switch to for small segments. Or maybe you could have an action playthrough, a horror playthrough, and a playthrough for Rose where she uses her powers, her weird mold powers. But personally, I think 3 might be too bloated, and I think it'd be better to have her as a side character that maybe you play as on occasion. So after we went through some options, here is exactly what me personally, would like from RE9. I'm not saying I'll automatically hate Resident Evil 9 if it's not like this. This is just what I think would be cool personally. My top number 1 pick for the protagonist for RE9, if there can only be one, is Rebecca. Yep, I love Rebecca, and I want to see more Rebecca. And if we can't have Rebecca, then Jill or Leon. Those are my runner-ups. Jill and Leon are the runner-ups, but number 1 I want is Rebecca, please. She's such an underrated character, and it'd be so cool to see her with a lot more experience. Don't ask me what the story should be, because I have no clue. I just have faith in Capcom that it'll be something unique at least. Hopefully not as messy as Resident Evil 8, but they can cook. Let them cook and they might make a good story. For the gameplay, most people prefer a third-person Resident Evil, which would be fine by me. Or you could have first-person, or you can have the option of first-person or third-person. Also, I prefer horror Resident Evil games, so if I could only have one gameplay style, I would want Resident Evil 9 to be a horror game. But I would ultimately like 2 playthroughs, like the earlier games, one with the horror style and one with the action style, to appease both types of fans. And also, we should have A and B scenarios, done well. So let's say that Jill has the action-centered gameplay, and Rebecca has the horror-centered gameplay. This could be the Jill A, Rebecca B scenarios. But for Rebecca A, Jill B, Rebecca would have the action-centered gameplay, and Jill would have the horror-centered gameplay, as well as all the other cool stuff that came with the original A and B scenarios. And that about covers it. I'm not sure what else to add besides maybe some extra costumes and mercenaries mode. But if you liked the video, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and leave a like. Hitting the bell notification, subscribing, and leaving a like will inform me that you like Resident Evil content, and I'll make even more Resident Evil content. I hope my ideas for what I wanted for Resident Evil 9 were good ideas. I'm currently working on a few other videos at the moment, and I hope you guys enjoy those videos as well. Also, links to my Twitch channels in the description, and I'll open up my Patreon after I hit 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, and see you all next time.